going to talk about the marquee matchup. You had Florida going to Knoxville to a checkered Neyland Stadium to play the Tennessee Volunteers. It was a ranked matchup. It was beauty. I mean, in terms of the pageantry of college football, this had just about everything you could ask, think, or imagine in a game. Ultimately, Tennessee ended up winning the game 38-33, kind of staved off a pesky comeback effort from Florida. We're going to talk about both teams and some of our takeaways, but first of all, Tennessee, they were by no means perfect. By no means perfect, but they found a way to get it done. On top of that, they were not at full strength. They had their alpha dog wide receiver, Cedric Tillman, not playing in this game. You say, well, how big a deal is that? For those of you that know and love and watch Tennessee routinely, you know that is Hendon Hooker's safety blanket. Stuff breaks down, the play goes to the dogs, he's going to his dog, Cedric Tillman. All right, so to not have him in this game was a very big deal. So what does that mean? It means you had to have other guys step up. And step up they did. You had Brew McCoy have a day, over 100 yards receiving. A lot of people throughout the college football offseason were saying, okay, there has to be a wide receiver two that steps up for Tennessee, right? Got to be somebody else to carry the load. If Cedric Tillman isn't on that day, this was that day early in the year. And for Brew McCoy to put it together in the fashion that he did was something that we've waited for from a long time from Brew McCoy. So that was encouraging to see. But I think to zoom out a little bit more, elite programs, championship level programs, are able to play at their best when they don't have all their talent available. Let me phrase that another way. It is one thing to want to compensate when someone goes down. I think just about every program in the country, unless you have a severe culture issue, you want to step up and be there for your brother when he's not playing. It is a whole nother thing to have the ability to have the talent within your roster to say, that's okay, we're still going to have another wide receiver step up and take the place of Cedric Tillman. That's a very big deal. That cannot be overstated. So for Tennessee going forward, if they can have Brew McCoy continue to play at this level, they can have Ramel Keaton continue to play at this level, and they get Cedric Tillman back, Tennessee's going to be a problem for a lot of people in this conference. On top of that, Hendon Hooker, they asked a lot more of him in the run game. Dude is a competitor. He said, yes, sir, give me the rock. Carried it for over 100 yards on the day. Against a Florida front seven with that first-string front seven for Florida, some bad dudes. Ventrell Miller, we didn't think he was going to play in this game, was a game-time decision, got right, played in this game, and ultimately made an impact, at least getting Florida lined up. Now, Tennessee still went for 38 points, so that's a whole other conversation to have. But getting back to Hendon Hooker, sticking with this narrative or this thesis that, hey, what do elite programs have? They have guys step up. On top of that, elite programs are led by elite players. That's not to say elite programs just have elite players. A lot of programs across the country have elite players, but they're led by their elite players. And Hendon Hooker was the catalyst yesterday for Tennessee. You saw him go down, hurt the shoulder, bad wing, no problem, rub some dirt on it, we're good to go. It's a rivalry game. You kidding me? Hendon Hooker put himself in the Heisman Trophy conversation. Now, it's week 4. We're not going to get carried away here and give you our Heisman rankings on this show. We'll do that on TikTok. Don't get it twisted. I'm not here to lead the Hendon Hooker for Heisman campaign, but I am saying at Tennessee, you have a guy in Hendon Hooker, a guy who originally, when he got to Tennessee, he didn't win the starting job out of camp. It was Joe Milton. It took a few games until Hendon Hooker ultimately got the keys to the offense and hasn't looked back since. He's the guy at Tennessee. Even more so, he's the guy that can take you to where you want to go. I truly believe that. If Tennessee doesn't accomplish what they want to for the 2022 season, if they don't get to Atlanta, if they don't win the SEC, all of that, it will not be because of Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker proved yesterday in an emphatic fashion he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So that's great. You exercise a lot of those demons around the Florida rivalry, and hey, Florida had won 16 of the last 17. That's a huge deal, and it's a big thing that floated around on social media and graphics and whatever. Wasn't as big a deal to this team. But what does this mean for Tennessee? I begged the question all week long. If they do win this game, is it program defining? Is it a program defining win for Tennessee if they beat Florida and get that monkey off their back? Probably season defining to this point, which isn't saying a whole lot given how many games they've played. What I will say is this, though. This win can mean as much for Tennessee as they allow it to. What do I mean by that? If Tennessee comes off this bye week and they drop it to LSU, let's just say the worst case scenario happens and they just absolutely don't have it that day. Well, then this Florida game is probably a nice one to have rerunning back within the facility and probably fun to still recruit with. And it's a nice tool. It's a nice, silver bullet in your back pocket to have when it comes to you and Florida in the recruiting battle, whatever. If they can use this as a springboard forward and they continue to win and they continue to validate who they believe they are in that locker room, well, look out. On top of that, from the recruiting perspective, there was a lot of guys with a lot of stars next to their name in that stadium yesterday, probably wowed by Checker Neyland. On top of that, a lot of guys that are big-time recruits watching that game on television. Tennessee has garnered a lot of attention nationally from the media, yes, but on top of that, from recruits. This win can mean as much as they want it to. This brick is only going to be as valuable as the ones that they stack on top of it. But altogether, for Tennessee, what Josh Heupel said on his post-game interview on the field where he was just like, Rocky Top's back, let's go, that got me fired up. So no such thing as a bad win. Obviously, anytime you beat your rival, it's a great win. But for Tennessee, there's a lot of things in front of them. They've now earned the opportunity to play some meaningful games in October and November and to do some really exciting things beyond that. Let's talk about Florida. What did we learn yesterday? Well, I think they proved yet again they got some dogs. Talent will not be the issue at Florida. It just likely will never really be the issue when it comes to games like this. AR, we said all week they got to let him cook. He was cooking. He was absolutely cooking. Accounted for 4 touchdowns, had that one interception. It's a garbage interception. I don't really want to talk about that. The Florida offense had nearly 600 yards of total offense. So the offense was humming. Here's what I think it comes down to for Florida. They have a lot of want to. A lot of want to, which is saying something. A lot of teams talk like they want to, but Florida has now proven on multiple occasions with the way they showed up against Tennessee, fighting until the last second, and the way they beat Utah, they have guys that care about the right things. They have guys that have their head on straight, AR being one of them. They have a lot of horsepower. We just talked about it. Talent's not an issue. They had 2 wide receivers go for over 100 yards yesterday. Ricky Pearsall, shorter. They got guys that can burn on the outside. That running back room stocked. That defense, really good, especially on the front end. On the front end of that roster even. I mean, they're probably a few classes away from competing for what they really want to compete for, but they got guys. They got talent. The issue for Florida right now is knowing the how to. They're going to get there. It's Billy Napier's first year. They're going to be good enough to roll the ball out and play and beat some of these teams just based off having AR going that day and based off of the talent they have on that program. The how to is the next step for Florida. Can you not be having your day-to-day dictated by who's across from you? We talk about it all the time. You can't go and beat Utah and then not bring it against Kentucky. You can't go and beat a Utah team and then struggle with the USF team. It's got to be the same thing day in and day out. And that's something you grow into. As a program, as a culture, as a locker room, that takes some time to bake. But there's a lot of good things in place at Florida. You have nothing to hang your head about. Gave a really good Tennessee team all they could handle and then some at their crib in a raucous environment. Florida's going to be okay. Billy Napier, I still believe, is the right guy. The how-to is what's still being developed. Again, Tennessee wins that game 38-33 in checkered Neyland. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.